break a stick loud enough I can hear it, and I'll go.
Hmm.
And I wait. And there have been times that a stick or something comes, wheeling through the forest and crashes, and I'm like, okay, it's a no-go. We go somewhere else. And so, you know, communication's everything. If you think they can't communicate with you, you got another thing coming. They can understand you. If they're not understanding your language, they're understanding your thought. So they have what we call watchers, and there's always the watcher tree. You guys can do this on your own. Go into an area that's like highly traveled, like say a boat launch or something like that. And I never go to a place at night that I haven't examined during the day first.
Right.
I want a good feel for where everything is and what it is. And I may do that 5, 6 times before I ever attempt it at night. But find the watcher tree. It's fun to do this because when you first start even approaching that place, you can look up at the top of that tree and you'll usually catch some little eyes because all little ones have jobs. And I talked about Mark, one of my students earlier. One of his first prints was found a little tiny, about the length 7 inches of your hand, mud Sasquatch prints running across blacktop, and you see it going right up that tree. And when you see those trees, about every foot or a foot and a half, the bark is pushed in and smooth. So from a distance, it looks like that tree's got something wrong with it, or like it's kind of striped. But you get up there close to it, and you actually feel the bark in that area where it's lighter or darker, and you could feel the difference. And you can see where they constantly climb, and that's the watcher tree. It's going to be the largest tree, and it's going to have it's going to be the one that can see the most area of where our people would come from, be it from a road, a turn in the road, entrance into a park, any of that. And, typically, usually you can't see it because they look back at the forest and, that's where they're giving their eye shine, like, hey, it's so-and-so, or it's okay, or red, it's everybody on high alert, whatever. To survive, they have to work as a community out there. So everybody has their job. And the little ones get jobs as soon as they can sit still long enough. They get appointed jobs like that, and they get authored. It's not like they have to do that every day in, day out. I can usually tell by how far apart the eyes are, or, whose particular resting color is who I'm dealing with on clans that I deal with a lot. But yeah, you guys could do that all on your own, just driving around, go to, a local park where there's a frequent, flow of people that may show up at night, like a boat launch or something where somebody takes their boat out late or picks it up late, fishermen, something like that. So check those areas out, check out those trees, look for the most obvious. Usually it's right in front of you, and it's usually a tree that's got a little bit of a tilt to it. It's just the easiest one to climb for them. That's the one they're going to do. So check that out. It's something to start with. Gives you confirmation if they're in that area. If you go and there's nobody at the watcher tree, you haven't seen any eye shine, typically you're not going to have any activity that night. Right. So I'll pull in and I'll go, it's going to be dead here tonight. They're off doing something else because they're not always in the same place. They move around. One thing is for certain, they never travel. If they come through in one line, they're not coming back through on that line. They work in a circle. They travel in a circle. And that's one way they avoid getting caught, detected, seen twice, because the way they move.
Oh, that is really wild. Now, I know a lot of people talk about their tactics and how it's not really, you shouldn't look at the one that's making the most racket. Usually it's the other direction that you should be focusing on. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you hear a noise to your right, it's usually because somebody to your left needs cover, just as if our military would be working or our cops would be working, they'll say, hey, let me cover you, and they throw down a bunch of gunfire, and the other guy runs from the other side. It's the same kind of thing. Yeah, they do that.
Wow.
Even when I go to a place where they know me well, if I hear I'll hear trees crashing, and, you'll hear a couple go down. And if I start walking in there, I'll walk in with no flashlights, no nothing. I mean, I can see very well in the dark, and I'll use the moon to my advantage. If there's not, then I use a headlamp, but I don't put it on my head. I keep it in my hand, keep it shining down low, and I keep it on a low color, like green, never red. Just no red is a bad thing. Like one of my students that commented on last show, we were in her vehicle and we were riding, and we were just about to where we were going, and a Sasquatch just pops up right over to the left. There's a clearing, and he's got this bright, intense green eyes. I mean, they were like 10 inches apart, and he was probably about 8 to 9 feet tall. And she goes, "Oh my God, look!" I'm like, I see. And she hit her brake. And when she hit her brake, her foot no sooner touched that brake, and his eyes matched identical what she did. She gave red brake lights. His eyes went to red. So it's like we surprised him because there should have been nobody out there that time of night, way out in the middle of nowhere. So they're just freely roaming around, and then here we come, and we weren't to where we were going yet, even though, she was slowing down. She was rolling, and there was deer everywhere. So we were rolling about 30, 35 mile an hour, and what is typically a 55 during the day, but nobody does it because of the deer. And when she seen that and hit her brakes, he responded instantly with red eyes. So,
wow, that is intense. I know our stream is still having issues, so I apologize. We do have about 5 minutes left, but we got a phone call on the board. Would you mind taking that? And it's from Naysay, who's the gentleman who asked the question about the ley lines. So, Naysay, okay. You're on there.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call. Shel, as a Native American disabled veteran that's living with Gulf War illness and researching the atrocities that they do with the military, because one of the experimental programs, they were trying to get us to survive biological and chemical weapon attacks, and if they could get another 45 minutes of fighting of us, they were able to succeed. And then you get into the whole GMO, like Brent was talking about, with the Franken's foods, and then with the manipulation, the species. From my research, and if you could validate this, there were the subspecies that were supposedly subterranean, like in the caves, and then the species were those that were like known on top of the on top of the terra firma, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's like opening up a whole can of worms. I don't know if we have enough time to even do that, but can you get in touch with me? Because I'd love to talk about this. Also, a big half of me is Native American, so I understand that. And I know that we, more than most people, have encounters where others don't for some reason. But anyway, what you're talking about, they are doing experiments and stuff on what you would call subterraneals, and that when we talked about the rake and the species number 2, I have thought exactly that. What if it was humans that they had done something to, and this is the outcome of it, because they really did look human in nature, especially the whole body wise and everything. And I'm so sorry to hear about your disabilities and things like that. That's horrible. There's a lot of stuff there that you touched on that there's not enough time to elaborate, but I do think that our government is involved in doing things, and I commend you for going out there and pulling together all that research together, because I too am, when I have, I've had a lot of downtime in the last year or two, and so I have been listening, and I have been hearing a lot of the military stuff, and it's scary. It's downright scary what our government is doing, not only to us, but to these other creatures and things that I think that they may have created a lot of this stuff, or they made it so that they can crossbreed it. Go ahead.
Also, metaphorically, if you look at the movie Watchers, I think you will find that delightful with the dogmen and the dog soldiers. There's a very interesting metaphor in that movie of what you were talking about with the military designed animals.
Okay. There is. And, I was going to say, too, that Hollywood if you look at Hollywood, there's a lot of stuff that we're coming up with cryptids, and you're thinking Hollywood introduced that 20, 30 years ago, but it wasn't quite the same, or it was exaggerated, or even to this day, they're creating stuff that is so close to stuff that's out there, but yet not. And then we watch stuff, and we have to wonder, my God, is that real? Or could this be another whole, things that's going to pop up 5-6 years from now, and this was their forewarning. They're putting it in front of us a little bit of time. Bigfoot, for one, a little bit more, so that people will learn to adapt to it and deal with it. Just like the reptilians. That's another thing. We have photographs of reptilians. We have photographs of grays. Undisputable. And so, they put stuff in front of us so that we learn not to fear it, or we get used to looking at it so that we'll cope better.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're down to about 1:30. Nase, thank you so much for your call. I will get Shel your contact information, and maybe you guys can touch base to have a further discussion. Thank you, brother.
Beautiful. Thank you. Love you.
I love you too, man. Take care. Shel, we are down to the wire here. You have about 30 seconds left. Anything to say in closing?
If you want to reach me, reach out to cryptoshell@gmail.com. It's the best way to get in touch with me. I'll get to you as I can. That's all I can say at this point. As I can, I will get to you. If you don't hear from me, hey, I'm sorry. I've got some really heavy-duty stuff going on in my physical and personal world here, and that's why I've retired the research. But I'm always going to be here to help people out if I can, or just talk to them, and just reach out to me. You can go to Whisper Walker's liked page. That'll always be up, and you can always send a message there. And Dave takes care of that, but he'll shoot me, hey, you got a message on this. It may take me a couple of days, but I'll get to you.
All right, nice.
Thank you again to everyone. Thank you, Brent and Don. You guys are great.
Very well.
Thank you so much. We've had nothing but a pleasure having you here. And we will call you right back after we're done here and have a little bit of a wrap-up conversation. We love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care, and stay tuned.